Borderlands 2, another one of my favorite games of all time, and what might possibly be the game that I've put the most time into out of any game that I've ever played. A week ago from today, as of me recording this video, being September 18th, 2022, that marked the 10th anniversary of Borderlands 2 coming out. Just like the Final Fantasy VII is 25 years old video, I'm sorry I wasn't able to do this one sooner. I meant to, I've just been pretty busy. But enough about me. Borderlands 2 is 10 years old, baby. It's time to celebrate.
It's cute that y'all think you're the heroes of this little adventure, but you're not. Welcome to Pandora, kiddos.
So, I think for context for the rest of this video, it's important to understand what my relationship is with the Borderlands series. So, I am actually a veteran of the Borderlands series. Yes, I know, it's crazy, right? It's probably one of the few video game series that I've played where I'm actually a veteran and have been playing the game since the very first one. I remember the first time I ever played the original Borderlands, there was a neighbor kid who I was friends with at the time, and I was like 7 or 8 or 9 or something like that. Like definitely, just a little too young to be playing Borderlands. Just a little too young. But what the heck? It was years ago. I wouldn't take it back. Anywho, so I was friends with this neighbor kid, and I remember going to his house. He had an Xbox 360, and I at the time only had a Wii. Prior to that, I had a PS2, and I remember going to his house, and we played games like Halo 3, which that was also my introduction to the Halo series, and Castle Crashers, which back then was just this Xbox Live arcade game, and then of course Borderlands. And I remember playing that game with that friend, and I was just so drawn into the world. I was like, what? Like, there's guns in this that shoot electricity and fire and explosives and corrosive. It's like, what? This is so crazy. The enemy design is so interesting, and I'm sure my thoughts as a little 9-year-old or however old I was kid was probably a little less detailed than that, but you get the idea. It's kind of crazy too, because Borderlands might have actually been one of the first games I ever played that had RPG mechanics in it. Anyways, though, as much nostalgia as I have for the original Borderlands, that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today, we are here to talk about Borderlands 2. And so, here's the story with that, alright? So, I was in 5th grade at the time. I was 10 at the time. And I just remember being so excited for the game coming out. I remember seeing Game Informer magazines, and I remember actually reading this one Game Informer article that said that Borderlands 2, this is way before the game came out, we're talking a year or two before the game came out, just after it had been announced. And I remember reading these articles saying that in Borderlands 2 you'd be able to go to Pandora's moon, and there'd be ice weapons, which of course none of that made the cut, the final cut of the game. However, they took those ideas and put them into the pre-sequel. But anywho, it was in 5th grade, September 18th, 2012. I just remember being so excited all day to finally get my hands on Borderlands 2. And my mom picked me up from school, and we went to the local GameStop, got the game, and I was so excited. And then we had some car trouble. One of our tires had popped or something like that, or was just losing air, and so we had to go to the local dealership, and we had to wait for 2 hours, and I was so unbelievably antsy and frustrated the whole time. But then when I finally did get home and get to play the game, I picked Gunzerker, first character I ever played in the game, still my favorite class in Borderlands 2, and was just immediately in love with the game. And I remember that night I was able to get past, just a little past Captain Flint, and then after probably a few weeks or a month or something like that, I beat the game for the first time. And then I proceeded to pretty much play Borderlands 2 on and off for like 7 years up until the release of Borderlands 3. And then even after that, I still found myself going back to Borderlands 2. And I still do. I still find myself, I don't play it constantly, but it's one of those games that like I know I can go back to and have a great time with it, whether it's by myself or with friends. They re-released the game on the Xbox One and PS4 via the Handsome Collection alongside the pre-sequel, and of course, it's on Steam, and it's just, I've played it on like so many different platforms too. It's kind of ridiculous, to be honest, like just so I can play with different friends who didn't have certain platforms, or whatever the case may be. And I just have so many fond memories of playing the Borderlands games with friends. Like, I really do. And that's something that I would not trade for anything. I would not trade those memories for anything. And I'm just really thankful to Gearbox and all the people who worked on Borderlands 2 for making such an absolute masterpiece of a game. And it only got better with the DLC. Oh man, such an amazing game. Now, this isn't a review of Borderlands 2 per se, or retrospective or anything like that. It's just a celebration, me just kind of sharing my experience, my memories, why I find this game so special. Kind of like what I did with the Final Fantasy VII video. And I just, like Borderlands 3, like as much as I like Borderlands 3, it just, for whatever reason, I find myself going back to Borderlands 3 less than I do 2. Like, 2 will always be like one of my favorite games of all time. And I don't know if there's going to be another like Borderlands game that will ever surpass that for me. Like, that's a really high bar to set. And oh man, Handsome Jack, guys, come on, like one of the best video game villains of all time. I mean, seriously, the actor who played him did a magnificent job, and just I can't even imagine what Borderlands 2 would have been like without him. It's really crazy that the original Borderlands basically had like no story. Like the story in Borderlands 1 was like, okay, you're trying to find the vault, and there's this company called Atlas who's kind of getting in your way sometimes, and bandits and whatnot. That's it. Borderlands 2, you have Handsome Jack, one of the best video game villains ever, period, point blank. Really got to hand it to the writers on that one. I feel like people who want to get into writing for games, or just writing in general even, should take notes from Handsome Jack as a character, just as a villain, because he truly is one of the best video game villains ever. And so I want to thank the writers. I believe Anthony Birch was one of those writers who, his sister Ashley Birch voices Tiny Tina and also Aloy in Horizon Forbidden West and Horizon Zero Dawn. So it's just like, it's crazy, like how far some of these people's careers have come since Borderlands 2 in these 10 years. Like, I think Ashley Birch's first voice acting role was actually Tiny Tina, and she just nailed it out of the park with that. To me, there's some signs if a game is like really freaking good, or at the very least just connects with you specifically. And one of those signs is replay value. Another one is noticing new things every time you come back to the game. And Borderlands 2 is exactly that for me. I mean, this game has so much replay value because You can play by yourself, with friends. There's the 6 different vault hunters, all who can be played in completely different ways depending on how you level them and what skills you put into them. And just the loot, and the new game plus, and just everything that's there. The DLC. Oh man, and like I always, pretty much every single time I've gone back to Borderlands 2 over the last 10 years, I have noticed something I didn't notice before. And it could be like a really small detail, but that's fine. You know, it's all in the details, as they say. Borderlands art style too is another thing that has always grabbed my attention, and I know some people, for whatever reason, don't like that art style, which is completely fine, but I personally have always really loved the Borderlands art style. I love like the comic booky style, cel shaded. It just really looks nice, and it gives the game its own identity in a way through the art style and through some of the other things like the humor that was in Borderlands 2. So that's another thing, you know, the writers in Borderlands 2, they knocked it out of the park with the humor. But anyways, this video has just kind of been a quick stream of consciousness type video where I was just kind of reminiscing about Borderlands 2, and most of all, celebrating that this game is now 10 years old, and, you know, to the developers of Borderlands 2, to Gearbox, the people who just worked on Borderlands 2 back in the day, because I'm sure not everyone is there anymore who worked on the game. You guys made something truly special that I don't think is going anywhere anytime soon. You know, you guys have your new projects, your Gearbox has some new projects, but no one is ever going to forget Borderlands 2, what you guys accomplished there, and that's something that is worth celebrating. And just the community that you guys have created, the fan base, I know it's kind of the same thing, but just everything that has come from Borderlands 2 and Borderlands as a whole, you guys, the developers, the designers, the artists, everyone who worked on the game, you guys, I hope you guys have celebrated, because you guys deserve it. So, I thank you guys so much for that, for everything. And to all the people watching this video right now, thank you guys so much for watching, really appreciate it. If you haven't played Borderlands 2 already, or any of the Borderlands games, go out and play them. They're really good, although I guess it depends on what type of games you're into. But if you like first-person shooters and RPGs, I think you're gonna like Borderlands, and especially Borderlands 2. So go give them a shot, go play them with your friends, have a good time, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace out.